Exciting to be coming back and to be talking to what I'm guessing is a range of Animites who've passed and are, got their coaching qualification, Animites who are doing their coaching qualification, and I guess today to share with you my journey. Because what I'm going to talk to you about today is building a business that lasts. I say that slightly reticently because my business is 5.5 years old, and so it's lasted that long. I hope it's going to last a lot longer, but we'll see, only time will tell that. And I don't know about you, but I've heard many times the statistic that most businesses fail in 5 years. Have you heard that one? Yeah? I think most businesses probably fail from what I've seen and certainly what's reported elsewhere. I just think, really think about it, most relationships fail in 5 years. There seems to be this whole leaning towards everything's going to fail before you get to 5 years, basically. And that's what the stats say. My business has been around 5.5 years, and for the last 3 years, it's generated over 6 figures. And I don't say that to brag, because I have heard plenty of people who have run their business for like a year and got to 7 figures straight away, or got to 6 figures straight away, and so on. So I don't say it to brag. I say it more to make the point that actually in 5.5 years I have built a business, and it has been doing well, and it's been doing sustainably well for the last few years. Because I believe you can build a business that you absolutely love, but that does also pay you an income. Because I don't think being paid an income is a dirty word. In my life, I know very few people who don't need to at least work to pay their bills. Yeah? The few people I know who don't need to work love working and they can't stop. I've got a couple of questions I just wanted to kind of get at the lay of the room, first of all, and that is, who here is looking to start a business? Give us some hands. Cool, that's exciting. Who already has a business? Well done. And who has a business, and this is a measure I use for myself, who has a business that pays them at least what they would have earned if they were in the corporate or whatever sector you came from? Yeah. I'm not saying that has to be your market. It was always a marker. Brilliant, thank you. It was a marker that I had for myself when I left the corporate world. Because 6 years ago and 1 week, so October 2011, I walked away from a really great career in the John Lewis Partnership. And I walked away not knowing what on earth I was going to do next. I was at a point in my life where, I didn't really have any major commitments. I'd had a really good career, both in teaching and in the corporate sector. And I had an opportunity to leave, to take redundancy. I could have stayed or taken one of several promotions, but I could leave and finally start this business I'd always gone on about starting. I'd always said I wanted to do my own thing. But I had no idea what that would be. Six years on, I now run a company called Heads Up. And at Heads Up, we specialise in helping schools move to outstanding. Now, most of you probably know that outstanding is the highest grade you can get if you're inspected. Yeah? That's what I help schools become. I had no idea 6 years ago that's what I would be. I didn't even know that such a thing could exist, if I'm honest. I made up my company, I made up my job. Yeah, and I love doing it. So what I'd like to do today is, I'd like to help you keep the faith if you're on that journey. Yeah, I'm still on that journey without a doubt. And I'd also like to give you some of the practical tips that I've picked up on the way, the advice that's been really crucial to me, and my lessons and certainly some of my mistakes. I'd love to share them all, but we just haven't got time. Okay? Does that sound useful? Yeah? Cool. So I think it's fair to say I love my business. Right? I absolutely love it. I love it so much that if it was something I could hold, I'd constantly be hugging it. Okay, I love my clients. I love working with schools. I love my team. I have a bit of a team, right? And I love them. I love everything about what we do. Yeah, and I often say to my now husband, if it's not a love-in, I'm not interested. Everyone I work with, it needs to be a bit of a loving. We need to be loving each other. That point Nina made about, work with the people who it really resonates with you to work with. I have sacked schools before, not in a horrible way, but just said, look, it's not working for us. We don't click, so here's your check back, it's fine, there's no love lost. That's okay, because I'm going to go spend my energy with those who get energy from me and I get energy from them. Yeah, so I really do love, I think, pretty much every part of my business. All the bits I don't like, I've given to somebody else to do. So that's a nice position to be in after a long time of doing all the things I hate doing as well. And one thing that I'm so proud of is that all of my schools that I've worked with who were inspected by Ofsted last school year, yeah, so up to July, all of them went up by at least one Ofsted grade. And when those results started coming in, I literally sat at my computer crying with happiness. Because for me, I'd help those leadership teams, that's where I focus. But in doing that, I'd helped the teachers and I'd helped thousands of children get a better education. And for me, I can't put a price on how much that means to me. I can't put a value on it in any way. It lights me up and it's just fantastic. And I hope to be able to do it for a lot longer. But it's not been plain sailing. Okay, it's not been a wonderful, nice, linear, here you are, I can tell you what I did and you can do the same. Maybe you can, I don't know. It's been very organic. And it really resonated to me when Nina was saying earlier that, you kind of just have a go. You try stuff out. And some of it works and some of it doesn't. It's all part of a learning curve. And absolutely, my business has grown quite organically, and I'm sure it will continue to grow organically. Excuse me. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour that began 6 years and a week ago today. Yeah, and through that, share with you some of the lessons that I've learned. And hopefully, there'll be something in there that will help you. Just before I do that, I just want to share an idea with you. And it's an idea I came across about 2 years ago. And it's the idea of the entrepreneurial sweet spot. Has anybody heard of that? Now, I hadn't. What are we talking about? There's a Venn diagram, 3 circles, interlocking. And the guy who was sharing it was saying that the entrepreneurial sweet spot happens when 3 things come together. One is you love what you do. 2, you're good at it. 3, you get paid properly for it. Yeah. And so when those 3 things come together, that's when you're in the entrepreneurial sweet spot. For me, I think that's actually what I'd been looking for my whole life. How joyful is that, to do something you love, to be good at it, and to get paid properly for it? Yeah, that's a wonderful place to be in. I'd love to say I had all 3 in place all the way through my business. I hadn't. Yeah, without a doubt. At points, different bits were missing. But for me, it was a really useful framework, and still is today, for me to go, right, is this working? And if not, which one of those 3 is not as high as it needs to be? Have I stopped loving what I'm doing? Do I need to change my role in my own business? Is there actually not enough coming in financially so it doesn't sustain itself? Yeah, are we not getting the results? Are we not showing that we're good at what we do? And therefore, what do we need to change so that we are still good at what we do? So my story, in a probably about 20-minute nutshell. 6 years ago today, I left John Lewis. I had no idea what I was going to do yet, and I did something that even now I look back on and I think, I can't believe I did this to myself. I gave myself permission to not commit to anything until the new year. Which is weird for me, because, I like to be busy, I like to do stuff, I like stuff moving forward. But I was like, no, you're just going to research. These next couple of months, you're just going to research, you're going to think, you're going to exercise, because let's face it, the corporate life does take its toll. Yeah, you're going to cook dinner for your boyfriend sometimes, not like just come home and order a takeaway. All these things, and you're just going to think and research. I used to go sit in the British Library and Google away and look at things and work up some ideas that I'd had over what I might do if I didn't get a job. Now, I do have a very wonderful and sensible big sister who works in HR, who said, you still need to be applying for jobs because we've just had this whole big crash happen and it'll take you a long time if you do decide to go into a job. So I did meet some consultants and had that going along as well, but I wasn't going to do anything until the new year. November, I met Nick Bolton. January, I started training as a coach with Animas. February 2011, I got a job offer. Even my sister, they're going, that's a bit quick. You haven't been trying for that long. I thought, okay, that's good. And it was a great job offer. It's a really nice company. I'd gone and met with them, got on really well, had a six-figure salary, had a wonderful package that goes with it, all the kind of the usual kind of entrapments that you get in a corporate offer, and it was exciting. And I had this crossroads. January, I literally had 2 weekends training with Animas, and I was at this crossroads. And I actually spoke to one of my friends on the course. I was going, what do I do? I could go and do this, and that offers security. There's pensions and sick pay, maternity pay and holiday pay and every other kind of thing, and pay. Just that. And then there's this world that I'm kind of in and existing and I don't really understand, and no one I know really understands either. I can't go to friends who are in it. And she's wonderful thing. I remember it felt like she'd almost stuck a hook inside me and pulled out the issue with a wonderful coaching question. She'd picked up that I'd been talking about being scared and fear, and she said, well, what are you actually afraid of? And at that moment, it presented itself to me. Thankfully not physically, because that would have been quite grim. I said, I'm scared of never following my dream. That I'm going to look back and I'm going to think, God, this opportunity presented itself to me, and I didn't do it. I was too scared. At that point, I walked away from that job offer and I committed to doing something else. I still didn't know what. I remember sitting with Nick a couple of months later, probably even just a month later, and I was talking to him, and he was saying, Sonia, it'd be useful if you found a niche. Right? You're talking about you want to start your own business, you've made this decision, you're clearly committed, but it's useful if you find a niche. Who here has a niche that they that's my niche, I could tell you who I like to work with? Yeah. I was your absolute, that's brilliant, you're doing better than I was, because I was kind of there going, don't want a niche. Why do I have to niche? Don't like it. I was real dig my heels in. Not even like, I just don't know who it is. I just didn't want to niche. And what happened was, for me, I was trying to talk to the world about coaching and trying to offer my services, and nothing was coming back. And then Nick and I were talking about my previous experience, so on, and thinking about, well, where would I like to work? I was like, and I said, look, I've always loved schools. I used to be a teacher before I went to the corporate world. Actually, I suppose, okay, I'll toy around with the idea that might be my niche. Education's always been important to me, but do I really want to kind of put all my eggs in one basket? I felt like I was closing a lot of other doors. Actually, what I later realised, that all I did was open a ton of doors in one particular place. And so for me, having a go at a niche, I guess I'd say, not saying for the rest of my life I must be committed there, but having a go at having a niche was really useful, because what it did was it allowed other people to go, oh, I know someone you should talk to. Oh, you're working with head teachers? Speak to this head teacher over here. And that's actually how I got my first couple of clients. Now, if I didn't have a niche, they couldn't do that, because I was just talking to the world. So I don't know if any of you are like me and were resistant to getting a niche. I'd say just play with it. It's that idea, try it. Try having one for a bit, see if you get to talk to the people, and when you talk to them, see if you like them. You might not, that's okay, change your niche. But it just made it easier to kind of show up and to let other people help me. So I got my first few clients because friends recommended me to head teachers, got talking to them. I still didn't know really what I was going to be doing for them. I listened, understood what was going on, and I guess almost unconsciously, I thought, well, I could help you with this. And I could help you with that. And it sounds like you could do with some help in this area. It was things around strategic direction and vision and managing difficult situations between members of staff. Stuff that I'd done, when I was in John Lewis. I didn't try to help them in anything that I didn't have experience of. So it wasn't kind of there going, oh, you're head teachers, I can help you with everything, because there's stuff that I really can't. And it goes back to the idea of what can you actually add value on. So I started to help them. And it went well, and they would then tell their colleagues. And they talk about the impact me and my company Heads Up had had. And business began to trickle in. I'll be honest with you, the first full year that I was running my company, bearing in mind I'd walked away from my John Lewis salary the previous year, I'd walked away from a six-figure job offer, I scraped past the personal allowance in terms of income. Yeah. But I was having fun and I knew it was going to take time. At least for me it was. Not for everyone, but for me it was. But there was a massive, I could still meet all my needs. I was doing some supply teaching as well to help my income, but I wasn't, it wasn't a six-figure business by then, that's for sure. It certainly wasn't my last salary, and it did all feel a little bit hand to mouth. Yeah, it felt like I had to go and win every single bit of work I did. I had to just, it was like, have I got something? Have I got something? Have I got something? I couldn't see that there was anything coming in, and I would wake up at 3 a.m. Why is it always 3 a.m.? You notice that? Still happens. I'm not saying I'm over that yet. I don't know if I'll ever be, but I still wake up at 3 a.m. and, the head starts spinning and I think, will I be able, will I have income coming in 3 months' time, 6 months' time? I sit there. I know I actually do at the moment with my business, but the time I was there, and I remember one night lying there and thinking, you've just screwed up your life, haven't you? Literally, just what are you thinking? And looking into the future and just seeing destitution and so on. Ridiculous, but it's the kind of thoughts you have at 3 a.m, isn't it? Yeah? Anybody else have the 3 a.m? It's not just me, is it? Yeah. So, business was coming in. I wasn't earning anywhere near like I had. Business was coming in, and I was enjoying it. So in terms of loving what I did, yes, that was there. And I was adding value in a sector that I was in love with. I'd forgotten how much I'd loved education. I'd gone back into it and totally fallen head over heels back in love, remembering all the reasons why education was so important to me. But this issue of it being hand to mouth kept coming up. It didn't feel sustainable. Thankfully, I spoke to Nick again. And Nick said to me, Sonia, run events, just like you do. Run events. He said, because it'll do two things. It will position you in your niche and it will help you generate income. And then more people know about you and they'll know what you do. So November 2012, I ran my first conference. And we sold out to 100 people. We actually had a waiting list and we got fantastic feedback. So that was really exciting. I literally spent 3 months living and breathing the build up to the conference. Business wasn't so busy then, so I could spend 3 months living and breathing the conference. And it did kind of create a little bit of a ripple where people began to understand what we could do, and how we helped. And I began to get just a few incoming leads, which was so unbelievably exciting. People found me instead of me going out and looking for them. Just a couple, but it felt like a real marker. I'm going to echo a piece of advice that Nina gave, which I think is really, really important, and that is, events worked for me, and, putting a conference together and collecting people to speak and speaking myself, that worked for me as a marketing tool. It's one I still use today. But absolutely, you find the thing that you like, right? Just because it worked for them, it doesn't mean it'll work for you, right? There are people out there who are brilliant at doing the data analysis on Google Analytics and all the rest of it. I think I'd rather chop off a finger than have to do that, if I'm honest. It's just not me. Yeah, if you really feel like you need it and you can afford it, get someone else to do it for you. But find the things you love. If it's not writing articles, don't write articles. If it is doing podcasts, do podcasts. But just find the thing that fits. And I was lucky that actually what Nick suggested was something that worked for me. So by July 2013, I was earning more. Still not my last salary, but I was earning more. I had a much better quality of life, so I'd take that. Yeah, I had 5 holidays that year. Yeah, that to me is the marker of success in my world. That's how I measure it. 5 holidays. And I was planning to go around the world with my mum and aunt the next February, which we did, for a month. Right, so I might not have been earning my last salary, but my quality of life, I was earning enough. I was certainly earning more. I wasn't scraping the personal allowance threshold at this point. But my quality of life was brilliant. But that summer, I was miserable. And I mean, we have first world problems, let's face it. We really do. But I was absolutely miserable because I was so lost and confused with my business. I didn't know, I couldn't really articulate what I did. In fact, on one of my holidays with a friend in Thailand, he said to me, so when people ask you what you do, what do you say? And I just said, I help head teachers do stuff. Yeah, and actually I'd done quite well off the back of this, and it wasn't just stuff, but I couldn't articulate it. I couldn't see how my business would be sustainable. And I was there thinking, well, it's working well enough for me to not go and get a job, but I'm not sure how long I can stay in this particular space. My energy was going. I was falling out of love with my business. With hindsight, and this is something I still tell myself today, with hindsight, I believe all the bad bits we have are because there is something better to come. There are lessons we're going to learn in those hard phases, those bits where it feels too heavy, too hard, where things just don't feel right. In my experience so far, there is always something better that wouldn't have happened had we not gone through that hard place. The hard bit is just getting through it. As Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. That idea. And for me, what happened was I found a course called Key Person of Influence, KPI. I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah, I found this course. I was looking at doing a master's. I looked at this, and it was pricey. Yeah, and you've got to remember at this point, this money could be spent on holidays. A trade-off, 5's good, but why not 6 or 7? So I found this course, I dug around, I asked people, I looked into it, and in the end, I had this decision of, well, if I don't do this, then what? I don't know how else to move forward. I'm stuck. I need some help, and this might not get me unstuck, but I can guarantee if I don't do something, I'm not going to get unstuck. I can't figure it out myself. I felt like to do this course and to do it well, I needed to have a focus. And a bit like my resistance to commit to a niche. It's like, well, I don't want to commit, I like doing this stuff with schools and I like doing that stuff with schools. And do I really want to commit to one particular bit of my business? And then I spoke to Kath Watkins, who some of you might know, and she gave me a brilliant bit of advice. She said, commit to one thing for a year. If at the end of the year you don't like it, change it. And it sounds daft, doesn't it? But almost this permission to just commit to it for a year. Suddenly meant, oh yeah, I can get out. So, November 2013, I joined the KPI programme. Within 4 months, I could articulate what I did in my business. I had a pitch. I could tell people what I did in my business. And I'd started writing my book. The funny thing was that when I was writing my book, all the previous years where I'd walked into a lot of schools, I actually realised was research. Still is to this day. Yeah, and I'd realised I'd walked into a lot of schools. I could accurately grade a school within a couple of minutes, in terms of Ofsted grades. I could see what they were doing right. I could explain the differences between the outstanding schools, the good schools, the RI schools. I could explain all of this. And when I wrote my book, all of this began to come together. I began to understand what it was I actually do. And what I do is I specialise in helping schools move to outstanding by helping them get the magic ingredient that schools that get to good and can't break through to outstanding, the magic ingredient that they're missing. And that is their high-performing culture. And the work I'd been doing in schools was to help them create this high-performing culture. And then they would get the results. They would get an improved grade. Not just from what I did. Schools do tons of things. But all the heads would come back and talk about how that had really helped them. July 2014, I took part in the Pitch Fest competition. It's kind of like the end of the course, if you like. Now, if you remember the previous year, I'd sat there in Thailand going, I help head teachers do stuff. I won that Pitch Fest competition, which was such a big step forward for me, but being able to explain to people what I did. Do you know what? I couldn't have done that any earlier than I did, though. At no point earlier in that journey could I have done that. I needed that couple of years of just trying it out, having a go, accumulating knowledge in my field, seeing what worked when I wanted to help people, to then eventually, by the time 2014 came round, be able to share it. From that point on, things really did rocket for me. I fell in love with my business at that point, absolutely head over heels. It felt a bit like self-actualization, if I'm honest. You know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah. So I really felt like I was in that space. You know, head teachers would call me expecting to book a certain amount of work. I remember one, she booked about 4 times the amount of work because I could just talk about, look, this is the journey, this is what it looks like, this is how we get you to outstanding. And her score went up one Ofsted grade last year. A bit of advice I would give is that I said that the course was expensive. Actually, it's paid itself back so many times. I wouldn't have a 6-figure business if I hadn't done that course. It came at the right time, and not everybody got that from it. And I'm not saying go and do that course. Find what works for you, but it's about actually, I think it's really important to invest in your ongoing learning and development at whatever level is appropriate. There is a course at a price point that will work for you. But when you do, commit to it. Yeah, and really get the most out of it. Because I think we can keep learning our art, but I think it's also important to learn business as well. And for me, it's always that kind of trying to do both. Keep improving what I'm doing for my schools, but also if I don't have a sustainable business, I can't help them. June 2014, I ran another conference, and at this, I could talk about my courses. My courses. Yeah, so I do. I have courses that span over periods of time, and that really helped me move away from this hand-to-mouth piece. Yeah, which meant that my business had more sustainability in it. Just a quick note about my courses. I do coach people. I coach senior leadership teams in school. I coach head teachers. I do pure coaching. But my courses are a combination of things I've learned and done, and my work with schools, and they often incorporate coaching skills, but they are training courses or facilitation courses. So my whole business isn't a whole pure coaching practice. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. So I would just think about that for you. Like I say, I do pure coaching, I love it, but it's not my entire business. So what happened? I ran that course, I got a lot of bookings in that one go from running an event. The following year, my book, Journey to Outstanding, it's back there, came out. And since September 2015, I have been fully booked in schools. Like there's barely a day when a school's open and I'm not in it. In fact, sometimes in the holidays, there's barely a day when a school's not, so schools close and I'm not in it. And that's enabled me then to build my team, to grow the business. And actually this year, what I'm doing is I've got trainers coming in now because I've kind of proved it works. I've got it to a scale. I am now the bottleneck in my own business, which means there's only so many schools we can help. And for me, that's not good enough. Because my mission is to make all schools outstanding. Well, at this stage, I'm the thing that's holding that back. I talk about the earnings and what my business is like because that's a really tangible, easy measure. But for me, the money I make as a business is a tool. That's all it is. Yeah, and I have financial goals to grow the business. This actually isn't for more holidays because 5 holidays in a year is actually a lot. It's lovely. It's a lovely problem to have. But there's only so much time you can do. And when you love your business, there's only so long you want to be away from it. So earning money is purely a tool to enable us to get out there and do more. That's what it is. Once you've hit a certain level of income and you're comfortable with that, then that's all it is. I don't sit there and go, yes, I'd like to be earning, however many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands a year. It's like, no, where can we use that? How do we get out there more? Because what's more important to me is actually the impact we get to make in the world. And as I say, I'm so proud that we've been able to help schools move forward to improve their performance for them, for their teachers, for their children, all the way through. Money is just an enabler. It's one we need, but it is an enabler. So I'm wondering if I could just take a couple of minutes, if I'm allowed a couple of minutes, just give a couple of quick tips. I've given some throughout there, but just a few tips, would that be all right? Yeah? Okay. So if I might be so bold, there are a few actions and mindsets that really help me along the way and still help me. Totally agree with Nina, get a coach. I've had a coach ever since I started at Animas 5 years ago. Yeah, she knows me inside out. Right? And yes, sometimes it's about business, sometimes it's about other things in life, but I'd definitely say get a coach. Get an accountability buddy. Near enough once a week, I speak to a friend of mine who I met on a course, and we tell each other what we're going to get done this week. And just the fact we've told each other and we've emailed it means we're far more likely to do it. But with an accountability buddy, if it's not working, then change it. Yeah, just say it's not working, get someone else. You've got to get that relationship right. I do believe in losing yourself in the service of others. I think that's when we get fulfilled. That's when that heart piece of the entrepreneurial sweet spot comes in. But I do believe you should get paid properly when you do that. Yeah, I don't think, great, if you can set up a charity and run a charity, that's fantastic. But you know what, I have a mortgage, I have bills, I need to eat. Yeah, so I don't think it's a bad thing to be saying, look, I offer this value and here's the price for it. Fact is, to be in a position to offer that value, you've probably had to make sacrifices along the way. Sacrifices that somebody else didn't. Okay, so get paid properly. And one thing that I use to try and help me get over myself, 2 questions I will often ask myself when I'm getting stuck, when I'm not pushing forward. And that is, right, if I don't get over this thing that I'm a bit scared of, don't want to necessarily do, who am I not helping because I can't get over myself? Yeah, because I'm just worried that I might fall over this time. Who am I not going to help? And for me, how many children am I not going to help get a better quality of education? You start thinking like that, it doesn't seem so bad. And then the other thing I use to try and help me get over myself when I'm getting stuck is, if I don't do this, do I like where I end up? Because there's always a choice, isn't there? Our life, in my head, our life is always forks in roads. I could go down there and it might be nice, it might not, but if I don't, I'm going to end up there, and am I happy with that? And if I am, fine. But often I'm not, so I have to go down this way. So look, that has been a really quick whistle-stop tour of my business. Thank you for listening. I hope there's been something in there that will be useful to you. I think it's really exciting to be in a room of people who are on their journey. And I'm sorry, I keep referring to it. It's a great talk, I have to say. I'm really excited to think about, well, who's going to be up here showing their journey and their lessons next year, the year after, at future Animas Summits. So thank you, and good luck in building businesses you love.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you very much. And when you were talking, one of the thoughts that I had there, or a question that came to mind was, so what was the key thing that took you from being being trained as a coach to running a business? Was there a thing? Because you talked about that you jumped into running events. I'm just wondering, people here that are learning to be coaches, and they go, well, how do I get? What is there a leap, or was there a?
I think for me it was kind of a drip process, really. There was no one kind of massive shift, and that was where I'd started working with clients and started to help them. Don't get me wrong, I did some bits of work that I did them well, but they just brought me no joy. Like, they were just cumbersome. I did them very well and thought, I'll never do that again. So for me, it was actually just beginning to get my first few clients, which is scary, I think. Getting your first couple of clients is, can I really do what I say I can do? But that was it. Yeah. Building, and then an event.
Lovely. And I really liked what you were saying there about taking time to understand what you do. Sometimes we really rush headlong into knowing what we do and being able to pin it down. I like the idea of taking time to know what you do, but giving yourself a year to try it out like that, and then change it if you feel like it. So giving yourself that permission to swap and change. Lovely. Brilliant. Okay, so now I'm going to open the space for any questions that people have that they'd like to ask Sonia about how she developed or moved her business forward. Here we go. Question down here from Hans.
Hi. I wonder, do you have a tip for filling your workshops and conferences? Do you advertise them? Is there any particular route to market that you can recommend?
Yeah, to be honest, I think the honest answer is there are lots of different ways you can do it. I know people who do it through social media, other people, SEO and clever advertising like that. For me, I email. It's pretty much the main way I do it. I email and I ask my head teachers that I work with to spread the word as well. And I think they're the 2 main ways. I've tried other things. They're the 2 main ways that have worked for me.
Cool, yeah. Lovely. Emails.
Yeah.
In
my sector, I can do that more easily because I'm a business to business. So yeah.
I suppose if you're looking for, if you're not business to business, it's always useful to do, I think social media can be really useful.
I've heard plenty of people have done brilliantly well through that. And joint affiliates, that's one, joint ventures. I know a lot of people have a lot of success that way as well. Yeah, thank you.
Another question for Sonia. Here we go.
Hi. During your journey through your business, during the down times, what's kept you going?
Stubbornness, probably. I think for me, don't get me wrong, I think I've learnt my cycle on when I get down about things. So there's kind of like a moment of realisation where I think, it's not as I want it to be. Then there's normally about 24, 48 hours of being miserable and a stroppy child. And normally by the time I start to cry, I realise I've hit the bottom and I will now start working my way up. And it literally is like that. Nice to know the formula, doesn't speed it up. I think it comes back to that point I made about, do I like where I get to otherwise? Because I do have this gremlin in my head that says, go and get a job. Right, even when business is going well, there's this little voice going, but go and get a job. Because that's what you do, isn't it? Because the world is secure. And it's not anymore. It's not a job for life. I've met friends the other day, redundancies coming out of their ears. So I think it's always that, well, do I like the alternative? When I hit that point in July 2013 and I was really down, I was like, well, I could just keep doing what I'm doing, I could do something different, or I could go get a job. I'm not going to have 5 holidays a year when I go and get a job, and I'm not going to do work I love to this level. So it's always the, well, do I like where else I can go? One of my fears is I have to go and get a job. It's ridiculous, go get a job, but it's like, I don't want to because I love doing what I do. So it's always kind of looking at what are the alternatives and are they better? But it's never fun, is it? Let's face it. Thank you.
Cool, lovely. Any more questions for Sonia? Yeah, there's a question just here.
So you did the coaching course initially. How did this help you with your business, what you're doing now?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think coaching's like a superpower. It kind of made everything I could have done so much better. Like I don't think I would have the level of impact that I have in the courses I run, so where I help schools get their strategic focus, their vision, get that really powerful. Just the skills around questioning and listening and you know, all of those pieces just really turned the volume up on something that would have been good, but not what it is. I don't say that to brag, but you know, do you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of a better way of explaining it, but it made me be able to deliver what I could do to a far higher standard because I do think coaching skills are to me, they are a superpower. I won't rip off my dress and have a big S underneath it, but to me, that's what they are. And for me, that's why I use the two. I don't just do pure coaching. They work together. Yeah. Does that answer it? Yes. Cool.
Cool, lovely. Thank you very much. Let's give Sonia a round of applause.